What would be interesting would be to rewrite the outcome of the 28 midterm elections, which just happened on Tuesday. Nationwide, I think we would say Democrats gain control of the House of Representatives, Republicans maintain and increase their majority in the Senate. I think we could talk about healthcare being a major issue. I think we could talk about Trump himself being a major issue, whether people supported him or opposed him, caused a lot of people to turn out to vote. Good. Then, how are congressional elections different from elections for president? One thing that is different, presidents are limited to 2 terms. There are no term limits for members running for this, or for people that are running for the Senate or for the House of Representatives. They can be there for any number of years. Collin Peterson, who is the Democratic representative just reelected from Congressional District 7, which is to our west, I think probably won his 17th or 18th consecutive term, which times 2 means he's been there 34, 36 years or so. So they can be there a long time. There have been senators, they serve 6 years, they serve 6-year terms that have been in the Senate 40 or 50 years or more. Because there are no term limits that says how long they can be there. The other thing about congressional elections, they take place within states. Okay, so in Minnesota, we elect 2 U.S. senators, and in the district that you live in, you elect a representative. People from other districts don't get a chance to vote for the 8th congressional district in Minnesota if you live in the 6th. Even if you like the 8th person, nope, you have to vote for somebody in the 6th. Kind of makes it a more local election, but yet they represent you nationally. As we can see, at least in the House of Representatives, we could say turned out consistent with this next point, that midterm elections tend to favor the non-incumbent party. By incumbent party, we mean which party has a person in the White House. And since Republicans have Trump in the White House, they're the incumbent party. Democrats did better and won many seats in the House of Representatives. Now, all of this also changes every 10 years. According to the Constitution, every 10 years there must be a census. The census measures the number of people in the country, but also where within the country they lived, how many in what states, and even within what states, what areas of those states do they live in. So there are laws that limit the number of representatives that there can be in the House to 435. There are also 100 senators because we have 50 states. Therefore, there are 535 people that are elected to both houses of Congress. How is it determined within each of these states how many representatives they will get? We know they all get 2 senators regardless of their size, but how many representatives does each state get? Like, for example, Minnesota has 8, North Dakota has 1. Why? Population. Okay, so it's somewhere in the neighborhood of about 800,000 people to 1 representative. Okay, you could also use it to say, well, if Minnesota has 8 and North Dakota has 1, that means that Minnesota's population is probably about 8 times larger than North Dakota's, just probably pretty close. Okay, Wisconsin also has 8, so are Wisconsin and Minnesota fairly similar in their sizes? Yes. California has 53. Okay, California is that much larger than Minnesota is. Now, within those states, they draw different lines. So, back up here. So how is it deciding how many each state get? That's called reapportionment. And that's going to happen between 2020 and 2022. Then we see each state is told the number of districts they get. Then they have to redraw the lines of the districts within their state. That is called redistricting. This is where the process becomes extremely political because each party wants to try to maximize the number of seats they think they can win. And one way that they do that is to try to draw the lines so that you put as many of your opponent's supporters into one district as possible. pack that district with, if you're I'm going to just use Democrats as an example. If you're Democrats and draw on the map, you want to pack as many Republicans into one district as you possibly can. Let them win that district 90-10. Okay? Then what happens is Republicans get one district, but you spread out all Democratic voters in the other 7, but give them majorities of around 55-45. Then who's going to win all 7 of those other districts? The Democrats will. So Republicans 1, Democrats 7. Who gets the majority of the seats in Congress then? The Democrats do. Do the Republicans do the same thing if they're in control? Yes. Is it very perhaps unfair? Yes. And will this probably happen? Yes. This will be interesting to see after our next census, which I'm really excited for, which is really, I think, this election, while it might have been important for positioning purposes, it's going to be the 2020 election that's really going to matter, because it'll be those state legislatures that win those seats in their respective states in 2020 that get to draw the maps that each of those states will have. Interesting. I find it interesting. Sorry, I'm kind of a nerd on that stuff. But anyway, okay. We talked about initiative and referendums last time, so I'm not going to really go into that, but it's another type of election. Whew. That was a lot of stuff today, really fast. Questions?
What is it going to affect when you have like one party controlling the Senate, one party controlling the House? Like, because it was on the question the other day, but like, what is that? Because I mean, I don't even know what they will do, honestly. So.
That's what we refer to as being divided government, right? Where one party controls one chamber and another party controls the other chamber. That would be a divided legislature. But then you're going to have one party that also controls the executive office. So it could happen at the national level. It could also happen at the state level. So in both, and actually both turn out like almost exactly the same nationally and in Minnesota, where your chief executive is of one party, and then your 2 houses of your legislature, one party has each of those. So what that does is it gives power at the national level to Democrats to control all the committees that are in the House of Representatives. And it is the committees in Congress where most of the work gets done. Okay, and we'll talk more about this later, but it is through committees that bills have to advance before they can be debated and before they can be passed by the House. And if a bill is not passed by both the House and the Senate in the exact same form, it can't go to the president's desk for signature. Okay. So it gives one party, if you control one house, you can at least put a brake on anything else that the other ones are trying to do. And the same could potentially happen in Minnesota, except it's kind of reversed. The Democrats have the governor and the Democrats will have the state house. Republicans will have the state Senate. But can the state Senate do the same thing? Absolutely.
This is like slightly off topic, but why in elections are some like battleground states? Like why are they more important than the others? Like isn't Iowa or someone like a battleground state or something like that?
Battleground is your numbers of Republicans and Democrats are not just close enough in proportion to each other, like 50-50, but also their amounts of power in the districts of those states. Because that's really what they're trying to do is maximize the number of representatives from each of those states. Like in Minnesota, no matter what Democrats would do, the 6th congressional district is a Republican stronghold. They're going to win that one no matter who the Democrats run, right? You could have the second coming of JFK run in the 6th congressional district of Minnesota and is going to lose to the Republican candidate. Same thing for the 4th and 5th congressional districts in Minnesota that are heavily Democratic. Ilhan Omar Ilhan, won her district 70-30, and she is a Somalian immigrant Muslim woman, which I don't think would have had the same success running in northern Minnesota. But she wins her district easily because it's such a Democratic stronghold. So that's not a battleground state, district. But if you consider Minnesota this season, there were 4 battleground districts that were viewed as being a toss-up. So, there was a lot of money pouring in, and a lot of highly visible, like people appearing on their behalf, presidents, vice presidents, former presidents, that sort of stuff. Did that answer that?
Yeah.
Okay. Have a good weekend.